Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on Thursday, October the 31st. This is Halloween. And you know who we have with us? Larry Brown. And he's got, obviously, he's got a Halloween story for us.
Mysterious story today.
Is it scary?
Well, it could be when you think about it.
All right. Well, I tell you what, Larry, I'm just going to sit back and listen. You're not even going to tell me the title of this story, are you?
Not yet.
Here is Larry Brown with a mysterious Halloween story.
I've been involved in a community rummage sale for years, and my job has been the book wrangler. I mean, I take in the books during the week and sort them and get them ready for the auction, which gives me, of course, the opportunity to select a few out ahead of time that I might want to purchase myself. And this was the case not long ago when I spotted an older-looking book of the collection of Mark Twain stories. And I thought, well, yeah, I'd like to look at that. I opened up, make sure it wasn't a first edition, but it was okay. I set it aside. Well, after the sale, and I'd paid for it and so on, I was at home looking at it, and the pages were stuck together. I don't know if it had gotten wet or something. I just couldn't open the rest of the book, and then it popped open. And it wasn't really a book. It was one of those sort of secret, safe sort of caches, that looks like a book on a shelf, but you open it up and you can put valuable objects inside. And so it was carved out in the middle, and in this little compartment was another book. So I looked at it and discovered it was a handwritten journal, a diary from someone. And I read there it was written by a woman named Orchid Remington. And her journal started just a couple of years ago. Well, I felt a little bit like a voyeur or a peeping Tom, but as I read the journal, I said, well, it was on the rummage sale. I bought it. It's okay. So I began to read, and it quickly drew me into her daily notations. I noticed that her daily life was getting smaller, but her reporting of her dreams was getting larger. In fact, more and more of the time of her entries were spent on her dreams, in particular, a recurring dream. She was going in her dream to a place that she described much like the little town where she grew up, and living in a house much like her grandparents' house. But every day, as she recorded her dreams, now the characters were becoming alive, the shopkeepers and members at her church that she joined, her neighbors. And then I began to notice that there wasn't much time on her daily waking life, which seemed to be very boring, but this full reporting of this lengthier and lengthier recurring dream. Well, she was making notes that, was she wondering about she was going crazy or whatever? And so she was sort of critically thinking about it, but she was also writing that she couldn't get home and quickly get to bed and get back into her dream. Well, as the dream for me was becoming now a story that I was interested in, I had to put it aside once in a while, but I was right back at it. And toward the end of her journal, then, a new character appeared in her story, in her dream, Wayne. Wayne was apparently a romantic interest. She was talking about having dates with him and having him over. And here came this moment toward the end of her journal in which Wayne said, I need to have a serious conversation with you. And Orchid said, yes. He says, you know that you're in a dream. And she said, well, yes. And Wayne went on to explain to her that he represented a group of what they joked about each other, calling themselves Dream Snatchers. We live in the dreams of people like you and live in several other dreams. And Wayne says, we chose you to be in your dream because you were so susceptible and ready to have us live. And he said, we depend upon people who spend all their time dreaming, like people in a coma. And he said, now you have to choose. Do you want to keep dreaming? Or perhaps we could even teach you how to be a dream snatcher. Well, then I read the last entry in her journal, which said, I've made my decision. Well, then I thought, I've been taken in. It's just somebody's attempt at a romance novel, and I've fallen into this trap. But just in case, I checked it out. I knew the people that had brought the book to the sale, and they told me that they had bought a house, and in the house were various items, including this old book. And I asked from whom did they purchase the house, and they said, the family of Orchid Remington, whom they then explained to me was in a persistent vegetative state in Parkview Hospital that cared for people like that. Well, of course, I rushed off to the hospital to see if she was still there, and indeed she was, and they let me go into her room, and there I saw what had once been a vibrant young woman, now a shell of a woman, and they told me she did not have long. There was no resuscitation going to happen. And I thought, well, has she found her ultimate home in her dream world? And I began to wonder about my own dreams and the possibility of dream snatchers. So live, that when thy summons comes to join that innumerable caravan that moves to that mysterious realm where each shall take his chamber in the silent halls of death, go not like a quarry slave at night scourged to his dungeon, but approach death, sustained and soothed with an unfaltering trust, like one who wraps the drapery of his couch about him and lies down to pleasant dreams. Now the poem, you know, from William Cullen Bryant's Thanatopsis, but my story, Dream Snatchers.
I like that. Now, any truth to this at all, or was this all from your imagination?
I have to admit, this is all imagination. But as all my stories, based on some incidents and reflections, and have we not all been, well, I shouldn't jump that far, but many of us have had recurring dreams. We go back to the same setting again and again. And so that's a truthfulness about that story. And do we not regularly have dreams in which we could live in a place better than the one we're in? And so I hope touching, some of our own. But now, some of you will say, well, that's kind of like the movie Matrix. And I go, well, yeah, perhaps I'm borrowing a bit of the thought of us living in someone else's dream or imagination. But that's not a new thought. Again, other folks have speculated about that.
Have you recorded this story, or is this fairly new?
It has just now been recorded.
Oh, so it's not available on any of your recordings?
Oh, not yet.
So this is the first. This was a world premiere. If you want to, thank you, Larry, for coming and sharing part of your Halloween with us today in that wonderful story, The Dream Catchers.
Dream Catchers. Yeah. Dream Snatchers.
Dream Snatchers. Okay. Okay. If you want to hear more of Larry Brown or see Larry Brown, what can they do?
brownstory@hotmail.com.
Okay, brownstory@hotmail.com. And you have CDs and...
I'm at the point of I'll make some if someone needs some. But...
Oh, okay. Well, I like that. That's kind of casual. Will you come back again, Larry Brown?
Well, sure.
All right. If something you'd like to hear or see, drop me an email, pepperp@missouri.edu. Bye-bye.